and mash it. Wow. Oh, wow. This is a BMW iX M60, and today I'm going to show you around this thing, the interior, the exterior, share all of its EV details, and then we'll take it out for a quick drive. But before getting started, a thank you to Porsche of downtown LA for access to this iX. If you happen to be interested in this car or any other Porsche product, make sure you reach out to them using the information in the description below. All right, now let's start it off with the exterior. So, dimensionally, it's basically the same size as a BMW X5, but the main difference is that the iX sits about 2 to 3 inches lower. From an aesthetic standpoint, let's just say it's controversial. Some people like it, some people don't like it, but one thing is for sure, it's a striking design with lots of angles and cuts and sharp shapes. The front end is highlighted by these massive front kidney grills, which are fake, and they're covered in glass, but nonetheless massive. And then the laser LED headlights are pretty striking and cool looking, especially at night. But here is one thing for sure. If I was buying this car, I would absolutely get it in a darker color. This black color suits it very nicely. And the reason why I say that is because in white or in something lighter, the offsetting black trim pieces I think don't complement it very well. Now let's move to the side. It's got a traditional SUV shape, so nothing out of the ordinary here. These wheels, so the standard M60 comes equipped with 21-inch wheels. These are the optional 22-inch wheels, and if you peek inside them, you can see the M Sport brakes highlighted by the M logo there and the blue caliper. These do come standard on the M60. Now looking at the rear end, I want to highlight the two badges back here. One on the left side signifying the iX and one on the right side signifying M60. And the nice thing about the iX is the shortage of badges. I mean, I hate it when car companies put like a million badges around the car. Very subtle badging in this. And from a rear end perspective, the taillights are nice and thin, slim looking, very sleek rear end design, and mostly understated. So since I'm back here, I'm going to show you the cargo space, essentially the trunk area of the iX. So it is comfort access. There's a button right here. And when you open it up, you are greeted with 33.5 cubic feet of space when those back seats are up. Now, I don't see any issues in terms of fitting a baby stroller or larger pieces of luggage in here. I could probably see 2, maybe 3 pieces of larger suitcases back here, depending on how you rack and stack. But there is also an extra compartment down here if you wanted to fit some additional space. Not much, but nonetheless, it does exist. Now, if you needed a lot more space, the iX has the ability to fold down those rear seats back there using electronic buttons right here. And this seating configuration, oh, there's something in the front seats there or in the back seats, so that's why the seat's not folding all the way. But nonetheless, when these seats are folded completely down, 77.9 cubic feet of space, and for comparison's sake, that is more than the BMW X5 and the Porsche Cayenne. Now jumping inside the iX, let's see what's going on in here. Now the first thing you'll notice once you get in is how easy it is to get in and out of this car. I feel like the ride height or the way this car sits makes it very easy for somebody at least my size to get in and out of this car. Now the overall feeling in here is pretty nice and open. The dash sits very low and plenty of leg room, so it gives you this open and airy feeling in here. Now surprisingly, dimensionally, this car interior wise is bigger than the X5, just a little bit bigger in all areas, shoulder room, leg room, height. So sitting at 5'11", how do I fit in here? So I have plenty of headroom. I would imagine somebody several inches taller than I am is going to fit in here just fine. Same thing with legroom, plenty of legroom as well. The seat is wonderfully cushioned, very nice to sit in, nice comfortable seat. It's heated, ventilated, and because this is the M60 trim level, it's also massaging as well. Now switching to the quality and the design, the interior is nicely put together. This specific car has a $3,500 upgraded Castanea leather package, which is a cinnamon looking color, and it has a cool cross stitching on the seats. Now the layout is good with plenty of storage space in the doors, the front compartment, and like most EV cars, there is this 2-level storage in the center area, which has ample amount of space and also houses your wireless charger. Technology wise, the iX has this floating widescreen display running BMW's latest infotainment system. There are 2 screens here. The first one measures 12.9 inches and it's out in front of you. The graphics are nice, crisp, clean, and modern looking. I like this screen because it gives you enough information to keep you from having to look at the center screen too much, and it's customizable. Next is that center screen. It's a little bigger at 14.9 inches. It is a touch screen, but it can also be controlled via the knob in the center section. But one of the things I've been critical about is BMW's infotainment system. I feel it's not as clean as the prior version. Some of the graphics and the overall use is kind of cramped and overloaded, and to me, I don't know, I feel like it could use some improvement over time. But if you don't want to mess with any of BMW's iDrive system, you can run Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is always nice, and you can even run it in a full screen setup. Now, one other item is the air conditioning controls, which are all integrated into the screen. And this is somewhat of a challenge for someone who's used to using buttons. But the nice thing is that the menu is always docked at the bottom of the screen, so you can access it rather quickly. All right, now I'm in the back seats of the iX. Let's see what it feels like over here. So sitting at 5'11" behind myself, I have plenty of leg room, plenty of headroom. Again, similar to the front, somebody much taller than I am is not gonna have an issue sitting back here. Now, if you wanted to fit 3 adults, it might be a little bit of a squeeze, but 3 children are gonna be just fine. There are 2 latch anchors, so if you wanted to put 2 child seats, you can do that. Maybe enough room in the center for a parent to sit in between them. In terms of amenities, there is a glass roof to peek out of, which is always nice. This does have the Bowers & Wilkins, so there's a nice speaker cover here. It looks pretty cool. The armrest is nicely cushioned. The seats are really nicely cushioned as well, just like the ones in the front. This does have a 4-zone climate control system, so each person in the back seats here can dial in their temperature to their desired setting. There are also heated seats back here as well. In terms of charging, there is a charging port right here in front of me. There's one on the other side as well. This is a USB Type-C charging outlet, and charging in the back seats is very, very important. But overall, this is a comfortable and spacious back seat, decently equipped in terms of amenities, so I don't really have any complaints. All right, now behind the wheel of the M60, let me rattle off some of the battery and EV related stuff before we take this thing for a quick spin. So 610 horsepower, 749 pounds-feet of torque. If you enable launch control, you get a little bump up to 810 pounds-feet of torque. This is all routed through a single-speed transmission. And of course, this does have BMW's xDrive all-wheel drive system, which means there's a battery in the front and, a motor in the front and a motor in the rear. All of this working together delivers a 0 to 60 time of 3.6 seconds, which is quite a feat considering that this car weighs almost 6,000 pounds. Now, in terms of the battery, this is a 111 kilowatt an hour battery and 285 miles of range for this M60 trim level. Charging time, BMW says from 0 to 100 using a level 2 charger takes about 11 hours. Interestingly, they don't mention anything about a DC fast charger, which can charge up to 200 kilowatts. They say 75 miles of range in 10 minutes, and in my real world estimate, I would say charging this from 10 to 80% is probably going to take you anywhere from 20 to 25, maybe 30 minutes, depending on the charger. So let's go ahead and turn this thing on. This does have a start-stop button, and it makes this nice noise familiar to BMW owners, and I did feel a little bit of a shake in the chair, which was quite interesting. So now let's go ahead and put it in D. And one of the frustrating things for me with this car are the modes. And the reason why that is because it's nice that it has modes, but I feel like it has too many modes. and the modes that there are, it doesn't allow me to change the driving dynamics unless I'm in sport mode. So when I go into sport mode, where are the modes? My modes. When I go into sport mode, it does give me the ability to change the driving dynamics, the steering, the dampening, and all these other things. But it doesn't allow me to do that in any other mode unless I just couldn't figure it out. And hence some of my frustration with this infotainment system. It is kind of complicated. But nonetheless, we're just going to go ahead and test the acceleration now. I'm in sport mode. I have steering in comfort and dampening also in comfort. And let's roll to 10 miles an hour here, 9 miles an hour, 8, and mash it. Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that is properly quick. Interesting, I noticed like a half a second lag as I pressed on the throttle, and it was kind of digging down. Very interesting. You're not really expecting a lag or a delay in throttle response and get up and go in EV cars, but I'm getting a little bit here. Let me try it again. There's a little bit of traffic here, and there's somebody here walking in the middle of the road, preventing me from trying a launch control here. Let me see if I could get around him. Anyways, all right, we're gonna try a launch control here. Let's see. I don't officially know how to turn this thing on, but I'm just gonna be in, like I said, in sport mode, foot on the brake and gas all the way. It's not doing, oh, launch control active, there you go. Oh shit, oh my God. Wow, okay, that was a very short road, and I saw 62. So yeah, that'll give you a sense of how quick this thing is. It's very fast. Oh my God, yeah, this thing moves so fast. Okay, interesting and cool thing about the, the seatbelt is kind of choking me here. Okay, interesting and cool thing about the launch control. I did activate there. The seat started to shake a little bit. It gave me like this rumbling feel, kind of like when I turned the car on, it gave that rumbling sensation. I felt it again as I was turning on launch control. It does give it a cool dynamic. Okay, now let's go ahead and talk about, what do we want to talk about? Okay, let's talk about brake regen and that whole arena of one pedal driving as well. So officially, this car does have one pedal driving, and separately from that, it also has like its own brake recuperation settings, okay? So let me tell you how the brake recuperation works. So if I'm in D, regular drive, there is a mode. So if I go into drive settings and drivetrain and chassis, and I'm sure there's a way to do this via shortcuts or whatnot, there's a setting called energy recovery in D. So there are 3 or 4 different options. So low, medium, high, adaptive. Okay, so low feels the closest to a gas-powered automatic transmission car. You take your foot off the gas, or the throttle in this case, and it really starts to decelerate at a very slow pace. You do notice that there is brake recuperation happening because there's this sensation of deceleration, but it's very similar to a gas-powered car. High, it does give you a pretty aggressive braking feedback or braking sensation when you take your foot off the gas pedal. Keep saying gas, the throttle pedal. And it is pretty effective. Adaptive is a little weird. I tried it out and I didn't really like it. Adaptive basically says, all right, car, do it by yourself. And personally, I don't prefer that. I like it to be dialed into to the way I like. And I like low because it is pretty close to a gas-powered car. It's not aggressive. And generally, when you take your foot off the throttle pedal, it's not always that you want it to just give you this sensation. So here I'm going to put it in high, and you really slow down. Now, one pedal driving, okay? So one pedal driving is enabled not via this setting here, but via the transmission controller. So earlier on I mentioned D. Now in the transmission controller, you push it down one more time and it'll put it in B. Okay, and B enables one pedal driving, and it is truly one pedal driving. I just took my foot off the throttle and it came to a complete stop. Now I tested the energy recovery in D, so when I'm not in B mode and I tried to take my foot off the throttle pedal, and even in high mode, the car will not come to a complete stop. It rolls to about 3-4 miles an hour, but keyword here is it rolls. It doesn't come to a complete stop. When you are in B mode, it does truly come to a complete stop. The brake recuperation when you take your foot off the gas pedal is similar to the sensation you get when you're in high mode, but the difference here is that it does come to a complete stop at a stoplight. So for those of you looking for one pedal drive, you're definitely going to achieve it in the BMW. Now, one other interesting thing about the driveline noise, and I bring this up because a couple of weeks ago I drove the new Macan. So this car does have icon sounds, which is similar to Porsche electric sound feedback. If you're familiar with Porsche's product, it basically pumps in the battery noise and all the spaceship type noises. And when you turn it on, it is pretty nice. It gives you this additional element of driving an EV car and the driving dynamics there. But the nice thing about it is when you turn it completely off, it is really quiet in here. So as you get up and go at highway speeds, at low speeds, city driving speeds, if you don't like that whole battery noise, driveline noise of the battery coming into the car, you're really going to appreciate the iX because it is really, really quiet in here. As I'm taking off, you can't tell, it's really quiet in here. Contrary to the Porsche Macan EV that I drove, that actually had a decent amount of driveline and battery noise being pumped in even while you're going like 20-30 miles an hour. It's quite interesting when you're going above 40, it really does quiet down, but it's not the case here. It's really quiet. And I'm gonna bleed this into the suspension and daily driving topics here to close it out. So the suspension is a 2-axle air suspension and it does have adaptive dampers. You do have the ability to raise and lower the car and change the damper settings from comfort to sport. And let me address the two ends of the spectrum here. So first things first, sport. This is an M60, but set your expectation. It's not a real sporty feeling car other than when you mash the throttle pedal and you just blast off. That's pretty much the extent of the sportiness, is the quick acceleration, because it is a heavy car, like I said, almost 6,000 pounds. And even in sport mode, yes, the suspension does get a little tighter, the steering wheel does get a little firmer and a little bit more weighted, but ultimately this is a heavy car, and expecting a high level of sportiness from it, it doesn't really achieve that great or nicely, I suppose. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, put it in comfort mode, everything in comfort, steering, feedback, suspension, ride height, and normal. It is sublime. It is truly remarkable how nice this car drives. Driving it here in my exposure, I've been driving it around for a couple hours here. Downtown LA streets, rough roads if you're not familiar, and it handles it wonderfully. The air suspension in collaboration with these very comfortable seats, I would imagine would make this a wonderful daily driver. And kudos to BMW for tuning this nicely. I would say this is pretty much on par, maybe slightly, just a little bit less plush feeling than a Mercedes EQS, but right there in terms of driving comfort and daily drivability. So that's pretty much it for the driving dynamics. Now let's wrap it up with some final thoughts. So that's the BMW iX M60. Now, BMW seems to be going down a pretty interesting path in terms of their design. But one thing that's becoming more and more apparent is that they're really dialing in the purpose of their cars. So for example, this iX is a daily driver car, and it really delivers in that department. It is a little bit on the expensive side with this M60 starting at $111,000. So if you're interested in an iX, maybe venture down the path of the 50 trim level, because the 50 can be pretty much configured to be almost the same thing as the 60 with the air suspension and the rear wheel steering. The only real big difference being the extra 100 horsepower. But in reality, do you really need a 600 horsepower daily driver SUV? I think the 15 or 16 in the 50 trim level will be more than enough. And in reality, the 50 trim level offers 20 to 30 additional miles of range, and the range is much more usable than the 100 horsepower found in the M60. But the decision is yours. Go out and give each one a try. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please make sure you leave me a comment down below or send me a message on Instagram at Drive Steady. Another thank you to Porsche of downtown LA. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Otherwise, thank you for watching this video. Until next time, drive steady.